Hey, what's going on, guys? JTK here. Welcome back to another video. In this one today, we're going to be continuing the reverse retrospective series. In this series, for those of you who are new, I have looked across other tier lists in the community from other creators and concluded that the top 5 best maps are Origins, Shadows of Evil, Gurad Krovi, Mob of the Dead, and Der Reisendrak. I have also concluded that the top 5 worst maps are Transit, Die Rise, Voyage of Despair, Blood of the Dead, and Alpha Omega. Now, the twist with this series is that we are going to be taking the top 5 worst maps and proving why they are the best maps of all time. And vice versa, we're going to be taking the top 5 best maps and proving them to be the worst. Hence the name of the series, Reverse Retrospective. Now, with all that out of the way, with this episode, we're going to be proving why Blood of the Dead is the greatest map of all time. Now, for this video, we are going to be splitting it up into 5 different sections. First is going to be the map layout, then weapons, mini-bosses, Easter eggs, and then replayability. These 5 things, in my opinion, are what make a great zombies map, and thus will be the format for this video. So, without further ado, let's just jump into our first section, which is going to be map layout. Now, the map layout on Blood of the Dead is very similar to its former Mob of the Dead, as it's literally Mob of the Dead combined with a whole new area separated by the catwalk. A lot of people complain about the spawn on Blood of the Dead, saying that it's too small and you can never return to it for any reason. I never saw this problem with Blood of the Dead. I never saw the spawn as a problem. I never saw it as a useless outlet that's just thrown across the side. First off, there are multiple Easter egg steps that are in the area, like Simon Says machines, the bird step starts here, the monkey bomb Easter egg starts here, and the boss fight also starts here as well. Throughout this video, you're going to see me constantly referring back to symbolism and atmosphere, as both Blood of the Dead and Mob of the Dead very centralized on both of those topics. Blood of the Dead is a storytelling map that brings you through a journey the moment you spawn in the map. The spawn in Richtofen's lab represents the new and unknown. The catwalk is a death trap that at the end rewards you greatly by bringing you back to what you have seen before. This separation is very cinematic and flows nicely, especially after you pass the catwalk. You can always use the underground transportation system to easily get around the map and not have to go back through the catwalk once you pass it the first time. To get to and from the docks, you can always use the gondola, and with these 3 places that seem very separated from one another, those being the middle area, spawn, and then the docks, a good transportation system is needed. And with these transportation systems, they feel more connected, and the map overall flows a lot better. There isn't a spot on the map that feels like a useless space or a hassle to reach to, as I never really find myself staying in one area on the map. Overall, the map layout on Blood of the Dead is underrated. Most people hate the new areas, even though the blade trap is used for most high round strats. I never found the map layout to be annoying or overwhelming past the catwalk, and even then you can always skip it with the solid transportation system around the map. Moving on into our next section, this is going to be weapons. Blood of the Dead has very similar wonder weapons to Mob of the Dead. First off, the Blundergat is consistent between both maps, with its upgrade being the Acid Gat. The Acid Gat was a very useful weapon in Black Ops 2 and still it is in Black Ops 4. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, but Steven, the Acid Gat was nerfed to oblivion in BO4. Let's take it from Treyarch's point of view. They spent all this time trying to make a new wonder weapon variant to the Blundergat. Why would they make it worse than the variant that already exists in-game? Even if Treyarch didn't nerf the Acid Gat and copy and pasted the exact same stats from BO2 into BO4, people would still use the Magma Gat because it's just better in every way. Do I think that they should have nerfed it? No. But does it really matter if they did? People would still pick the Magma Gat over the Acid Gat every single time. Now, I know these next ones aren't really weapons, but the Hell's Retriever and the Shield are very important aspects to Blood of the Dead and Mob of the Dead, especially the Shield. We will talk about that one later. But for now, we will talk about the Hell's Retriever, which on Blood of the Dead was adjusted to be less of a viable weapon, like how it was used in Black Ops 2, and is now more of a support equipment to help with certain Easter egg steps and reach certain things that are unreachable to the map. It is very similar to what they did to the Acid Gat, where they nerfed it to bring up new features in the map. The new replacement to the Hell's Retriever in Black Ops 4 is the Wraithfire grenades. Wraithfires overall are more powerful than the Hell's Retriever and the Redeemer in both Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 4. So why would you ever use the Hell's Retriever in Black Ops 4? Treyarch's response to this was to, like I said before, make the Retriever more of a support equipment than a high-round weapon strat. Although the wonder weapons are controversial, especially because the old features have been stripped in Black Ops 2, like the nerfing of the acid gat and the reducing of the damage and effectiveness of the Hell's Retriever, I find it to be a major improvement with the new features that they brought in, like making the Hell's Retriever more of an Easter egg tool and a support equipment rather than a damage equipment, and then the magma gap being just an overall huge damaging weapons against normal zombies that can punish you greatly if you don't use it carefully. Overall, these features might be a scary change to the old fans of Mob of the Dead, but it's a very welcome change for both the new players and to switch up the things from Mob of the Dead to make it feel like a fresher experience. Now that we are done with the weapons, we can move on to our next section, which will be mini bosses. Now, the mini-bosses on Blood of the Dead are very simple and mainly copied over from Mob of the Dead with a few changes. First off, we have the return of the Warden, which is very similar to the one on Mob of the Dead. He has the basic feature where he can lock items around the map, like perks, Pack-a-Punch, and the box, and then you're going to have to spend 2,000 points to open those up again. He also leaves behind an Earthquake that is equivalent to a 9.0 on the Richter scale. When you break off his helmet, he leaves behind a smoke screen, which isn't really too bad. I never have a problem when going against a Brutus. They do make themselves present on the map when they spawn, but they aren't that hard to take down. One change that was added to the Brutus in BO4, however, is the change that they undergo when reaching round 17. On round 17 and up, Brutus decides to go Super Saiyan and unlock a new attack that allows him to make an electric shock on the floor whenever he gets pissed off. Doesn't really change them that much, but it's still a pretty cool thing that they added. In Blood of the Dead, they also added in the Hellhounds, which on launch were a problem as they were incredibly durable and had more health than the zombies. But Treyarch was able to nerf them in a later update, and now they are reasonably fair mini-bosses added to the map. It's kinda hard to hate on Hellhounds as they are sorta just a free round that gives you max ammo. Overall though, they do what Hellhounds do best, which is give the player a break in between rounds and provide them with more ammunition. The mini-bosses on Blood of the Dead are very solid, and I don't really find people hating on them much when they talk about the map because most of the features of the mini-bosses are carried over from Mob of the Dead or older maps in the past. Now, moving on into our next section, this is going to be the Easter eggs. This is the one that people give Blood of the Dead the most hate for. This Easter egg is by far the hardest out of any other zombies map. But just because it is hard, does that mean it is bad? I say it isn't. I find the Blood of the Dead Easter egg to be challenging yet also very engaging and fun for the player. Yes, there are some steps like Morse code, which can be very annoying to do solo, but just because the Easter egg has a Morse code step, which in reality isn't really a Morse code step, doesn't mean it's the worst Easter egg ever. A lot of people like to say that Blood of the Dead has the worst Easter egg in all of zombies, whether it be Treyarch, Sledgehammer, or Infinity Ward, due to this step. And I can tell you that World War II zombies and IW zombies have much worse Morse code steps, or steps in general, that are worse than this one on Blood of the Dead. The Easter egg format on Blood, although complex, can be followed generally easy as it copies the challenge format in Gorod Krovi with its own twist. Instead of collecting things that unlock challenges, you do challenges to unlock keys that open the boss fight or other parts of the map. And we can't talk about the Easter egg without mentioning the shield. The shield on Blood of the Dead is the new replacement for the Afterlife system. And although I find the Afterlife system to be more new player friendly, I still do think that this is a good move from Treyarch. For once, the shield is utilized in a map more than just being a random thing you carry on your back for protection. It feels more intertwined with the map and makes more sense from the perspective of a hardcore player, since this is, you know, a hardcore Easter egg. People complain about the constant use of the shield in Blood of the Dead's Easter egg because it's too complex for a casual player to understand. My response to that is, when has an Easter egg ever been easy to understand for the casual player? Yes, recently with Cold War, it's easier for new players to understand, but those Easter eggs are by far not even close to be considered the top 10 best because there's just no substance for the hardcore audience. Most people who do Easter eggs are the hardcore player, not the casuals. Which brings me back to the points on how difficulty does not affect the quality of the map as long as the player is constantly engaged in the game. Now, with that rant out of the way, we can move on to our last section, which is going to be replayability. Now, in the last 3 episodes of this series, I've been really trying hard to find out what to put for this last section. For some, I had story, for others, I had innovation, but I think what makes a map up there with some of the greats is the ability to constantly come back and play it. And Blood of the Dead, I find, is a very solid map to constantly come back and play on. First of all, the high rounds are very solid on this map, as there are many good traps that you can use, and the weapon selection is endless and very solid as well. The Easter egg is difficult, so I don't find myself always constantly coming back and playing the Easter egg, but when I do, it's always a memorable time. For the hardcore players, I would say that Blood of the Dead overall is a very replayable map that is full of side Easter eggs like the Golden Scalpel and other small little lore bits that are related to the Ether storyline. For casuals, I wouldn't pick this map up as the sheer difficulty on the map overall is just way too hard. I would recommend to give Blood a pass until you play another simpler map like Mob of the Dead or Drak. In conclusion, Blood of the Dead is often seen as a bad map due to the complexity in the Easter egg and mixing features that replaced what old fans of Mob of the Dead once knew. I for one never hated Blood of the Dead. The first video on this channel was a map tier list, and I put Blood of the Dead really high up on the list because I enjoy the hardcore aspect to the map. During the making of this video, I didn't have much of a struggle trying to figure out good things to say about Blood of the Dead, because it has a lot of features that I like more compared to Mob of the Dead. Although Blood of the Dead never gave off the same atmosphere of being a prisoner trying to escape an island like Mob of the Dead did, it still has a very interesting and emotional story to tell with our Victus crew counterparts. With all this information given, I can confidently say that Blood of the Dead is the greatest map of all time. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video for today. I just want to emphasize real quick that obviously I know a lot of you guys do hate Blood of the Dead. I personally don't, but this video is supposed to take the opposite view, and I'm just trying to make Blood of the Dead look good in general, so that's just my opinion towards it. If you did enjoy, definitely leave a like, subscribe, do all that. You already know what to do. Go down in the comments below, leave your comments if you want to see me do any other types of videos. Check out the Comfy Cushion Podcast and Lucian's TikTok down in the description. I'll have both of those there. And yeah, I got nothing much else to say, so peace.